Good afternoon, everyone. Ankit Kukadia here from FullCircle LLC along with Ananya Jain. So we both are the founders of this organization, and we we strive towards making mental health cool in terms of Gen Z generation. So what we do is we are developing an ecosystem to assist Gen Z and millennials to tackle mental health issues. Like this has been an ever increasing issue, and we are yet to utilize technology and advancement in artificial intelligence in its full essence in order to like tackle these issues. So today we'll be discussing a little bit about gamification and digital phenotyping for mental health innovation. So before I go into my presentation, I'll just like to give a brief about the history of Full Circle LLC and from how we started. So, like Full Circle as a team was started way back in 2017, and we have worked on numerous projects before finally settling down to mental health issues. So, Full Circle as a team has worked on developing bio-inspired turbines, and we were the only team to have won the International Biomimicry Design Challenge competition way back. And after winning that competition, we kind of pivoted and started looking for, I would say, like problems that needed attention right now, because the product that we had developed while being working on the biomimicry design challenge was kind of a very futuristic technology, I would say, and the market was not mature at that time in order to commercialize that product. So therefore we started looking for technologies that can be utilized to solve major problems. And like Ananya and I both have a history of mental health issues, and we have faced mental health issues ourselves in our lives. So that way we thought like, hey, why don't we like take this and try to solve this with the advancement in technology. So then we started looking for different options and areas that we can look into, because mental health in itself is a very big domain. Like it can be anywhere from depression, anxiety, schizophrenia. There are so many things inside mental health as well. So like we were literally confused and figuring out a way on how on like which topic to finalize and which area to focus upon. So going forward we realize that, hey, like we both of us being students, and why don't we figure out a way to assist university students itself and the Gen Z generation in itself, because the entire Gen Z generation has been attached to technology like no other generation, like not even millennials, or I would say the baby boomers, and neither of the generation. And the technology is exponentially increasing, and so is the attachment of Gen Z with that. And like that is what we decided, that let's focus on mental health issues and specifically for Gen Z, because the problems are unique, and the causes of the problems are entirely new. So I would say today we have a lot of social media platforms like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter that generates a good amount of loneliness inside an individual. Like the ability to look good on Instagram, like that persuasiveness from peers to look good on Instagram, like compare with peers on TikTok, and that alone is like taking a toll on the mental health of students and the Gen Z in particular. So that is where our entire mission statement is focused on, in elevating the mental well-being of Gen Z. So I'll take you to a little bit of numbers that are startling in this COVID-19 area. Yeah. So this has been a recent study being conducted in United States. As you can see, the people who have gone through COVID, like they've tested positive for COVID, and there is a big seriousness in them for suicidal tendencies. As you can see the numbers over here, like 7.5 and 11.5, that's a huge rate in terms of the percentage and the applicants we have. So that is very startling, and the situation is going to become worse and worse as the pandemic keeps dragging on. So there is a serious need to figure out a way on how we can assist Gen Z and adults to tackle mental health issues, like going forward, like even in times of COVID and even after COVID as well. So like these are some of the research and recent study that has been done. So as you can see, like post traumatic stress disorder is 10.8% in at US adults, anxiety is 6%, depression 5.9%, stress 3.3%, insomnia 2.3%. So like PTSD is kind of taken a toll, and there are other reasons as well, like hallucinations is 3.1%, 1%, and so on. But there is a big need in order to prepare the adults to live in a COVID era and post COVID era. So that is where Full Circle is kind of working towards developing innovative and interactive solutions that would appeal to the US adults. So as we'll go forward, so we have tried to categorize the problem into like three major problems, the entire thing. So first of all is, I would say, general lack of solutions for quantifying mental health and accounting for self-reporting biases. So I mean, this thing is pretty straightforward. So when you are a student and kind of you give exams in a university, you score your GPA, you score marks, and that is how you kind of define yourself academically. So let's say for example, if you scored this in this exam like 35 out of 50, and now next time you want to improve, so you have a set goal in mind that hey, like I scored 35 in my last examination, so I need to score more than that. So that gives a sense of target to a person, and that is how like everyone then keeps on preparing and tries to score maximum marks. But the important thing that kind of persuades a person to do well in academics is the score, like the quantification of their examination score and their academic knowledge. So here also there is a need to quantify the mental health, the mental well-being of a person. Like hey, let's say for example, on a scale of 1 to 100, today your social well-being is 60 out of 100. That's fine. Now you have a target to achieve, like you can follow certain activities and try to increase your social well-being score from 60 to let's say 70. So quantifying the mental health is a bigger challenge, and once that is done, the person who is facing mental health issues will have a particular target in mind that hey, like this is what my score is, this is what I want to achieve, and this is how I'm going to solve it. So I mean, you can take any example. Let's say for example, a person is overweight, like hey, his weight is let's say 100 kgs and now wants to reduce it to 70 kgs. So that weight itself is a quantified thing, and the person who is trying to lose weight has a target in mind. Similarly, there is a need to quantify the mental health so that the person overall has a target set in his mind that hey, this is what I want to achieve. So that is the first bigger problem that needs attention. Second option is decreasing accessibility of in-person traditional mental health care during the global pandemic. So of course, like this kind of situation, I would say was is not very common and was not faced by people, especially those who used to go to in-person counseling on a regular basis. So because of pandemic and the social distancing and everything, it is not possible for people to seek counseling in person. So that has become a major challenge, and this the counseling system has so far been like it has been the same over the years. So even after the advancement in technology, the counseling system remains the same. Like you go to a counselor, you meet them, you talk to them. So there is no inclusion of technology into that entire system. And suddenly when the pandemic came, it became very difficult for people to actually switch from the in-person session therapy to a digital virtual therapy. So that is a very big challenge, and of course like people are trying to adapt to these new technologies, like trying to use right now like Zoom and Google Meet and other platforms, video conferencing platforms. But like going forward there needs to be a better tool to kind of realize and give the same feel of in-person counseling as compared to virtual counseling. So that is the second big problem that need attention. The third problem is continuing stigma around seeking in-person therapy and counseling as traditional mental health care. So this has been like around for quite a long time. Like people are not willing to talk about their mental health issues, and it is not considered a, I would say, a cool thing in Gen Z. Like people, even I would say like inside universities as well, there are counseling centers and therapists, and all the facilities are available to students. But there is still a big stigma around students seeking mental health counseling and going to therapists in the counseling centers. So that is also a big gap that needs to be filled in. And like Gen Z in general, so even though Gen Z has come out and started talking more openly about their mental health issues as compared to the previous generation, but the stigma still stays around. So these are the three big problems that we have identified that needs to be solved and that we are working upon. So since the entire Gen Z generation is kind of involved, or I would say engaged entirely in different social media platforms that involves community. So let's say for example some startling numbers include like 44% of the adult Gen Z claim to have a Twitter account and 23% check it daily. Like that's a very big number. And young adults in the late 20s and early 30s spend 2.6 hours a day on mobile video. I mean, like 2.6 hours is like a huge chunk of your 24, or like almost 10 to 12% of your time you're spending on mobile phones and on different social media platforms. And like this kind of platforms kind of keep on coming up and becoming more and more engaging. So like first we only had Facebook, then came Instagram, Twitter around the same time, TikTok came in, and now there is Twitch, and there are so many gaming platforms as well that are coming up over and over the time. So essentially the average concentration span of an adult Gen Z is decreasing day by day, because like all these social media platforms kind of don't require you to like analyze or give a thorough thought process to what is being done. It's just like swipe right, swipe left, or just like, comment, share. That's it. So there is no significant development or effort that a person has to put in while going through the social media platforms. And at times it becomes highly toxic. Like let's say for example consider Instagram. So like people are always showing what they want other to be look at. Like let's say for like, so they don't show their original self on the social media platform. People always try to post pictures that would gather more attention and more likes and more shares, rather than being who they are. And that like there is a lot of peer pressure as well in terms of participating in the social media communities and the platforms as well. Like you need to keep yourself engaged, and like your friends are on this social media, so of course you also have to be there, and that kind of peer pressure follows. Like say, let's say if you're overweight and not looking that much good, and your friends are the kind of posting cool pictures, then you feel kind of sad and lonely that hey, see, like because of this situation I'm not able to post good pictures and all, and that in itself creates loneliness inside a person, and which over a span of time, if the situation persists, can lead to severe mental health issues as well. So there is a lot of buzz around how social media is kind of keeps the students engaged in everything, the Gen Z generation as well. So there is a need to do the design in such a manner that it's not addictive to an extent. So that is where we are trying to come up with a design concept solution that will allow Gen Z to spend or utilize their time in helping each other rather than trying to label one another in terms of how much likes you have or how much comments and shares you get. So that is another big aspect that we are working upon. Yeah. So there are different solutions that everyone is trying to work upon. Like not everyone I would say, but there are a few companies that are trying to come up with innovative solutions, like by using digital biomarkers and phenotyping. So let's say for example your mobile kind of becomes your own identity. Like every individual person has their own way of using their mobile phone, like the way you type, the speed at which you type, the pressure that you put on the screen while clicking, and all those aspects kind of become an inherent property of who you are. So that is a bigger, and like mobile phones are with everyone, so that kind of becomes a digital biomarker and your own individual identity. So we can always utilize or use that data, analyze it, and come up with an unique identity of an individual, and if and based on that we can predict the mental health status of that individual. So let's take for example, like you have a particular identity based on the way you use your mobile phone, and then over a time period there is a big deviation from that identity, that something is definitely wrong with you. So then we have to figure out ways, and that kind of gives a signal that hey, look, this person might be suffering from mental health issues. So it's before even the individual realizes that something is happening, the technology itself raises an alert that this is what the situation is and this needs attention. So that is one of the possible solutions. The other is gamification of traditional mental health care and community building to increase engagement. So this is another aspect, like here VR and AR can play a very big role in terms of connecting people with their loved ones like across the globe. And that is what it is, right? When a person suffering from mental health issues kind of needs empathy and like needs a support system, it might be possible that a Gen Z is not able to reach out to relevant people who can understand him or her, or like he's like a person studying in a university is badly missing his or her family and like wants to, of course video call is possible, that but that entire feeling of using AR and VR and like MR to kind of virtually be present with your family will give an like a sense of gratification, and will reduce a lot of mental burden on the individual's mind. So there are different aspects in which we can use the mixed reality technology to tackle mental health issues. The another aspect is like the haptic and emotional cues. to influence sociability and help seeking behaviors. So this is what generally is happening. So you have all these Apple devices, Apple watches, and all the smart watches that are coming up in the market, but none of them kind of provides, I would say, like a emotional cues. So there's something, let's say for example, you're kind of feeling lonely today, or if someone is missing you in another part of the world, then there needs to be a way by which that missing part can be felt in person. So it can be in terms of sending vibrations to each other through devices, or like being present through mixed reality with one another even though like miles apart. So these are some of the possible solutions that can help redefine the entire mental health ecosystem and assist the Gen Z generation going forward. Okay. So this is what we all could come up with because of the hurricane. So if anyone has any questions, we are